Hello and welcome to IGPP Expert Talks. I'm Heena Goswami, Editorial Consultant with IGPP, Institute for Governance, Policies in Politics, New Delhi. In our ongoing series about AI, today we are joined by Dr. Alpan Raval to discuss how AI is going to touch our lives. Dr. Alpan Raval is the Chief Scientist for Artificial Intelligence Machine Learning at Wadhwani AI. A theoretical physicist, Dr. Alpan taught mathematics and computational biology at Claremont College in California and later worked in research and AI teams at the East Shore Research, Amazon, and LinkedIn. Welcome to IGPP Expert Talk, sir. So, how do you perceive the current societal impacts of AI technologies, both negatively and positively?
So I think I'll address this particularly in the Indian context rather than the global context. I think that may be what you're alluding to. So I think in the Indian context, much of the impact, in a sense, is yet to be realized. There is still much of the societal impact. You're already seeing the impact of AI in other domains, in other more commercial domains like the internet, finance, and so on. But in terms of societal impact for the development sector, I think a lot of the impact has yet to be seen. And I say that for both positive as well as negative aspects. Having said that, the potential is huge, right? So, for example, India is squarely on the path towards digitization. A lot of the data that we're producing is already in digital form. But more importantly, the data that's not in digital form has the potential to be digitized very quickly using modern AI, especially things like large language models, speech recognition models, and so on, where, for example, you can record somebody's voice and quickly digitize that into a transcript, right, using speech recognition models. And so you will soon have vast amounts of data that exist in digital form, and you will be able to leverage that data using other AI technologies to do prediction, estimation of various kinds. You can predict risk for healthcare. You can help in addressing disease, diagnosing patients, help in drug discovery. In agriculture, the combination of farmer data with satellite data on farms will enable you to estimate how crops will grow, what their yield is going to be, what are the, in addition with climate, when you juxtapose that with climate data, you're going to be able to predict the effects of climate change and so on. So I think the impact is huge. And similarly, in areas like financial inclusion and so on, you will be able to use AI to identify individuals, families, communities that are at risk. You'll be able to identify individuals who will maybe better than others at being able to pay back loans and so on, and who can be then targeted for financial inclusion. You can even use that as an incentive. So, lots of things are made possible through AI now. And so I think the positive impacts are huge. Now, of course, with that come some of the negative aspects. And these are aspects that you often read about in the news. One of the most disturbing things about AI that we need to be very mindful of is that because AI operates on huge amounts of data and has the capability of extracting, in a sense, meaningful information from vast amounts of data, any biases that exist in the data will be amplified by the AI. So it's very likely, unless you control for it, unless you watch for it, unless you evaluate these models regularly, it's very likely that the models have biases that affect their errors in different ways. So the models could make greater errors among protected cohorts and less errors among cohorts who are not protected. and those kinds of things are dangerous. We know with large language models there is also the potential to hallucinate and invent facts, so to speak, which is again dangerous, cannot be used in critical situations. And one way to mitigate this is to always have human in the loop when you deploy AI systems. So don't let an AI system take a final decision, but always have a human who takes the final decision and uses AI as a tool in order to do so.
Have there been some recent initiatives that have efficiently utilized AI for public good? We know that Wadhwani AI has also been working in the field. Please do let us know some of the initiatives.
Yes, so one of the initiatives is, of course, one of the recent initiatives is, of course, leveraging the use of large language models to generate advisories for people on the ground. And one of the areas where we work and where other people have also contributed a lot is in the area of generating farmer advisories for crops, weather, mandi prices, and so on. And this is enabled to a large extent by large language models, where you can interface with the AI through conversational interfaces in your own language and get information that is useful for the farmer, right? So these types of conversational agents, or chatbots as we call them, are just going to proliferate, not just in agriculture, but also in healthcare. And they're going to augment the capabilities of on the ground personnel who are advising farmers or advising people in villages about best health practices and things like that. Right? So AI has this capability of augmenting capabilities of individuals in this way, and that's already happening. One of the other things that we've been doing is we do a lot of work in the tuberculosis space. And as you know, India is one of the worst hit countries when it comes to tuberculosis burden. But India also has one of the best data sets when it comes to tracking individuals who have tuberculosis, longitudinally tracking them over time. And we've been able to leverage this data to develop a lot of AI solutions for tuberculosis, including early identification of individuals who are at risk of dropping off their treatment. We are also working on a cuff-based screening solution for TB, where an individual can cuff in the vicinity of a mobile phone, and the app will tell you if you need to get further testing for TB or not.
We know the role that data plays in artificial intelligence system. What is this concept of data stewardship in AI development and its importance in maintaining trust and transparency? Because we are coming across cases where many AI-based organizations have faced administrative or public red for using data without permission.
Right. Yeah, so that is certainly what you pointed out is one aspect of data stewardship. I think different people or different entities have different conceptions of what data stewardship means. But abstracting from all that, essentially a data steward is a third party who doesn't have so-called an agenda or an interest in the data as such. They are not data owners, they're not data fiduciaries, they are not the beneficiaries of the data, but they make sure that the data is used in a way that's fit for purpose, as well as in a way that respects the privacy of the individual from whom the data was collected, right? So, in a sense, a data steward is a guardian of the data. Make sure that the data goes where it needs to go. Make sure that it is stored in the right way, it is used in the right way, and sort of governs the use of data completely. So, data stewardship is very intimately tied to the concept of data governance. And if you like, data governance is sort of a policy, whereas the data steward is the executor of the policy.
Amidst all this, what role do you see that government and regulatory bodies should play in overseeing the deployment and development of AI system? Uh, given the concept of data stewardship and the concerns regarding data privacy, do you think AI should be first allowed to develop independently by startups, by industries, or should government step in?
So I think there's a fine line. It really depends on the application and use case. There are certain data sets that maybe that are not owned by government, or even more, they're not maybe do not need to be regulated as much. On the other hand, there could be data sets where the violation of personal privacy, where the accuracy of the AI is very, very critical. And one example is healthcare data. I don't think we should have unregulated use of healthcare data, for example. I think the government has to step in, create regulations, ensure that that data is private, ensure that the outputs of the analysis of that data, and this includes AI models, we have to ensure that the outputs of analysis conform to a certain standard, because they are going to be used for treating patients in some form or the other. So there have to be quality standards for those outputs, and that's where regulation comes in. So any data that relates to individuals and potentially violates the privacy of individuals needs to be governed and regulated in a certain way. And this is the entire process, even the process of collecting the data. Have we taken informed consent, for example, from the individual in the right way? If you don't regulate that, that can lead to dangerous situations going forward.
You mentioned the app that has been developed by your organization, where when you cough near the mobile phone, the app will tell you whether
Yes,
you need to
yes.
see the doctor or not. Uh, so how do you see this evolving relationship between AI, big data, and Internet of Things, and how will that shape technology and society in future?
Yes, so that's may not be as relevant to the cough example, but certainly in areas like agriculture, where you have sensor networks and the possibilities of drones and sensor networks that are all connected to each other, there is a very intimate relationship. So you can use these sensor networks, which is part of the Internet of Things, to collect data at scale from across farms across India. And then you can use that data, you can leverage that data to do predictions for the future, predictions of crop yield, prediction of soil, predictions of the effects of climate change on crops. So in that way, they are very intimately linked, because the Internet of Things enables large scale data collection. And it's the large scale data, it's the big data that's required in order to build robust AI models. So that's where the relationship comes in.
Looking ahead, what are your predictions for the next major advancement or challenges in AI and data science, particularly again regarding their impact on society and human well-being?
Well, that's a tough one, because I think it's very difficult to say the rate at which the field is progressing, the field of AI. No one predicted, for example, the advent of large language models and their use in things like ChatGPT and so on. It would have been very difficult to predict that this was the future, maybe even 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So everything I say should be taken with a pinch of salt. Uh, there's a huge incentive for AI to be what is known as generally intelligent, for us to develop artificial general intelligence. And so far, the way we've been approaching it is by collecting very, very large amounts of data and having computers or computer software learn from those large amounts of data. I think that whole paradigm of massive data sets and throwing compute at massive data sets may need to be rethought in the future. I don't know exactly how, but we may want to mimic more the human process of learning, where we look at limited data, build simplified models of the world around us, and then use those models to progress further as we encounter more data as we go along. So I think, that kind of paradigm may emerge, and through that, more human-like learning may emerge in the future. I don't know what the implications of that are going to be. It's very hard to tell right now.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sparing your time for us.